Congressman, I want to talk to you a little bit about some electoral politics, if we can. I want to get to the presidential race in a few minutes. You've endorsed Senator Ted Cruz, who I think is really in the catbird seat right now for the Republican nomination. But before we get to that, I want to talk to you a little bit about here on the state level. We got Alabama's senior U.S. Senator Richard Shelby, who is running for re-election. Will you be supporting Senator Shelby in that effort?
Well, a little bit of background. In my opinion, out of the 50 states, the Alabama Senate delegation is number one. We have the best tandem. Now, Richard Shelby and Jeff Sessions, they have different strengths, but you put those strengths together, and we've got the best duo of senators in the United States Senate. A lot of it has to do with seniority. A lot of it has to do with the ability to work with other senators. A lot of it has to do with positions on public policy issues. So with that as a backdrop, I'm going to be voting for Senator Richard Shelby in the March Republican primary because of my belief that our two senators working together are doing a great job for America and for the state of Alabama. And when you've got something that works that well, you don't mess with it. That's where I am.
Yeah, you have a lot of folks out there who have said Senator Shelby. And so I've even heard Senator Sessions. They've been there too long. I think it's people don't understand how important seniority is in the Senate. That's just a reality of the situation. That the way that they have been able to defend not only the United States and the Constitution, but also the state of Alabama, defend our interest, is in large part due to the fact that they have built up significant tenure there, and so they have a lot of pull behind the scenes. Would you say that that's accurate?
Well, the tenure, the seniority, helps the state of Alabama, and that's important. However, let me emphasize that there are significant problems in the United States Senate. The Senate is not doing what America needs done in the face of these challenges. But having said that, the problem is not with our two U.S. senators. The problem is with some pretty liberal-minded Republican senators from different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. If we had 54 senators with the intellect and the backbone of Senator Jeff Sessions and Senator Richard Shelby, our United States Senate as a whole would be about as good as we could possibly hope for in American history. That's how highly I think of Richard Shelby and Jeff Sessions and their voting records, their philosophy of government, the way in which they're able to wield the power that they have from their seniority. You put it all together, and they're a really good team.
Let's talk about the presidential race a little bit. What was it that compelled you to endorse Senator Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz has the intellect. He's probably the brightest of all of our candidates, and that's important. You need intellect to have a good understanding not just of the initial impact of public policy decisions, but the cascading effects where you've got the vision to see what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years down the road because of the policies that you're implementing today. Too often, we've got folks that only see the initial effect. Okay, like raising taxes. Okay, the initial effect is you have more money in your coffers, greater revenue, right? Well, long term, you might have the exact opposite because of the adverse effect that these taxes may have on your economy. And if your economy sputters, then that's going to have an overall adverse effect on tax revenues. So that's what I mean by short term versus long term. And Ted Cruz, he's got that intellect, he's got that long-range vision. He also has the ability to communicate. I liken him to Ronald Reagan. Now, their appearances are different and their mannerisms are different, but Ted Cruz knows how to explain his position on a public policy issue where the light bulb goes off in the minds of voters. Mm-hmm. And there aren't very many elected officials or candidates for public office that have that kind of ability like Ted Cruz does. And then finally, he votes right. He votes in tune with what Alabama voters wish would happen in Washington, D.C. with the United States Congress and the President of the United States. And I should add one additional factor. Ted Cruz has backbone. He's going to do what he believes is right, and that's something that the Republican side of the equation or aisle has been missing of late. You look at Barack Obama, we can disagree with him and dislike his policies as much as we want, but you know he's got backbone, and he sticks to those policies. And he pushes them no matter how bad the adverse effect may be on America or the American economy or our national defense or our posture in international relations. Well, we on our side of the aisle, we need a president of the United States who's got the backbone, the principles that cause you to have that backbone, to stick to those things that we can make the kind of gains that our country needs to make. So I see in Ted Cruz the whole package, and I think he would make an excellent president, and I think he would represent the values that we have in Alabama better than the other candidates, bearing in mind that we've got some pretty good candidates. There are some other Republican candidates that I could get wholeheartedly behind in the general election, but you put them all together, and in my belief at least, based on the experience I have in Washington, D.C., Ted Cruz was number one, and so he's the one I'm supporting.
Well, it is my view that Ted Cruz versus Marco Rubio is the debate that we need to be having. That those are the two that I would like to see it come down to those two guys, and then we can have a debate over the future of the party, obviously who would be the nominee, et cetera. But I would love to see that happen. But the barrier between that and where we are right now, probably most significantly, is one Donald J. Trump. What do you think is going to happen for Mr. Trump to fall off in the polls?
For the life of me, I don't know. Donald Trump is what I call a high-risk candidate. He may turn out to be very, very good. On the other hand, he may turn out to be very, very, very bad. You don't know. He's never held public office before, and so you don't really know how he's going to act when the heat is on him. Is he going to fold, or is he going to do something reckless? Is he going to be deliberate and make the right decision? You don't know, because he has no track record of any kind in public life. And there's a whale of a difference between being a shrewd businessman and being in the United States government as the President of the United States. And so that's the concern I have, or reservation I have with Donald Trump, and one of the reasons I like Ted Cruz. I have seen him fight the fight against overwhelming odds, but he stood his position despite the pressure groups who wanted him to do something different. Then another reservation I have against Donald Trump is I don't know where he is on any issue. You look at what he says today, it might be diametrically opposed to what he said a year ago or what he says tomorrow. And immigration would be a pretty good example of that. He's been all over the map. I like his real tough stance when he says, I'm going to build a wall and it's going to be a great wall. That's good. That'll help protect American workers from lost jobs and suppressed wages. But on the other hand, within a week, he says, well, I'm also going to build a really good, great gate in that wall, and I'm going to let them all back in except for the bad ones. Well, I mean, from an economics perspective, we still have Americans losing those same jobs to illegal aliens, and we still having Americans suffering from depressed wages caused by this huge influx of illegal aliens into the labor pool. So now, while he says he's going to deport them all, when he says he's going to build this great gate and let them all back in, you've lost the benefit of the deportation, which is the protection of jobs for Americans and the protection of wages for those Americans who are fortunate enough to have jobs. And so I'm very perplexed as to what Donald Trump would actually do and be if he's president of the United States. And that's my hesitancy there. He may be great. He may be horrible. He may be someplace in between. There's no way to know because he doesn't have the track record. And quite frankly, he's just about taken every position on every public policy issue that you can take.